Controversies that I missed while I was out was the intra-GOP fight over H-1 visas, H-1B visas, where we bring over immigrants and we allow them to work at a decent wage over here, largely in tech, data processors and engineers who the tech industry has used prolifically, who Elon defends, Vivek defends, but people like Steve Bannon and our friend Batya Ungar-Sargon, who writes for Newsweek and is much more focused on the working class, has said they don't want that.
Yeah, anyone who's America First doesn't want it. This is Megyn Kelly with Ben Shapiro of the Daily Wire, but they're going to be talking about H-1B visas. They're going to talk about this tweet that went viral from Vivek Ramaswamy. So we've got all kinds. Listen to all the names. This isn't even everyone involved. This MAGA civil war got involved. Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro, The Daily Wire, Tim Pool, every big name out there that you can think of. Vivek Ramaswamy got involved. Elon Musk, of course. Laura Loomer, Young Nick, everybody. Let's go. The Megyn Kelly Show, Megyn Kelly going up. And it's a good little conversation here with Ben Shapiro, Daily Wire. Let's go.
We've had enough of this, that these are jobs Americans would take with proper training and so on. And here's the thing that stood out to me. Trump sided with Elon and Vivek, basically saying he's always been for these visas. Here's the thing that stood out to me. The Vivek Ramaswamy X post on December 26th. I think I can bring this to you as a former geek yourself, who's no longer geeky. But I mean, you were like the most brilliant person your whole life who was always crushing everybody in every class. I would love to get your take on Vivek's way into this controversy. Like, you can defend the visas, you can not defend the visas, but my friend Vivek, this is not the way. This is not the way. He drops the following.
If you did not hear this, listen up. Megyn Kelly talking about the infamous now tweet post on X from Vivek Ramaswamy. Listen up.
The reason top tech companies often hire foreign-born and first-generation engineers over Native Americans isn't because of an innate American IQ deficit, a lazy and wrong explanation. A key part of it comes down to the C word, culture. A culture that celebrates the prom queen over the math Olympiad champ, or the jock over the valedictorian, will not produce the best engineers. A culture that venerates Corey from Boy Meets World or Zach and Slater over Screech and Saved by the Bell, or Stefan or Steve Urkel in Family Matters will not produce the best engineers. More math tutoring, fewer sleep.
Did I do that? A fun fact, was it two Halloweens ago, I dressed up as Steve Urkel, probably my best. I'm not a big Halloween person, but my wife and I had a party to go to, and she was the one that thought of it, and it kind of worked out. I was Steve Urkel, man. I didn't have to do much to look like that, bro. Let's just say that. Let's bring this back. I want to make sure sometimes when we're listening to these, it can be, especially if you've never heard this tweet from Vivek, you can miss the understanding of it. I'm going to bring it back again to make sure that we're on the same page. This whole thing that we're doing today is about this tweet right here that she's reading. Let's bring it back.
It comes down to the C word, culture.
So Vivek Ramaswamy is critiquing American culture and basically saying that we have to hire Pajit or Patel because Americans are too lazy and stupid. And I think it's more targeted than the words American. You tell me.
A culture that celebrates the prom queen over the math Olympiad champ, or the jock over the valedictorian, will not produce the best engineers.
I'm going to tell you that there's some truth to it, but we don't want to hear that. And I'm going to tell you why. I'll probably end with that. At some point in this, I'm going to tell you, even though that there is truth to it, I'm not going to say he's lying. I'm going to tell you why people really didn't like this.
A culture that venerates Corey from Boy Meets World or Zach and Slater over Screech and Saved by the Bell, or Stefan or Steve Urkel in Family Matters will not produce the best engineers. More math tutoring, fewer sleepovers, more weekend science competitions, fewer Saturday morning cartoons, more books, less TV, more creating, less chilling. My friend, this is a great way to produce, I guess, better engineers, but not to produce better men who the women actually want. No, this is
by the way,
I like Megyn Kelly. I never even thought. I mean, she's obviously a woman. I never even thought of it from that standpoint. Megyn Kelly has a point. Let's get back to Ben Shapiro's response.
we don't create our men in some laboratory where they're all Steve Urkels. We want guys who are out. We like prom kings. We like sleepovers. We like people who develop social skills in addition to math skills. And this comes down to me as like, I, having been a product, not myself, but like my kids, of the New York City private school system, realize there are so many schools there who are looking to create the perfect SAT score. They want to create your child into the perfect SAT score. Well, I don't want that. And having moved now to Connecticut and found a school that actually cares about the whole child, about creating great young men and young women, it really puts the fine point on it. Yes, they need sleepovers. They need socialization. They need some stupid cartoons. They need sports. They need a whole bunch of things other than mathletes. It's not to say you take it from here, Ben.
Okay, so I love Vivek, and the truth is that when it comes to H-1B visas, I think that there's some things you can do with H-1B visas, like increasing the income limit before you let people in. That's an interesting conversation. I think there's a lot more to be said about sort of the variation in terms of what actually.
No, there's not, but I'm not going to digress on this one.
Went on in this argument it was sort of a bizarre argument.
No, there's no interesting conversation about increasing the amount of money the H-1B visa people get as a solution. That's not an interesting conversation. Let's continue on. Ben Shapiro representing the Daily Wire.
But when it comes to the cultural analysis, I have to say it's not actually true. Okay, I promise you that Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, Elon Musk is a very culturally savvy guy, and he was not participating in the Math Olympics.
I know, but he was a benefactor of an H-1B visa, so that doesn't make sense. Overall, I agree with Ben Shapiro's take here, but that Elon Musk is not a good example.
Okay, so it turns out, by the way, that's also a very bad read, I have to say, on Boy Meets World. Okay, so as a Boy Meets World stan, I will say that if you ever watch an episode of Boy Meets World, the entire moral center of the Boy Meets World universe, not to get too abstruse here, is Mr. Feeney, who is the high school teacher who tells the kids that they need to study harder and take history seriously.
True.
Right? That's actually the theme of Boy Meets World. And by the way, the same holds true of like, you're picking all of the shows from the 1990s that actually had parental figures who actually pushed education, right? I mean, if you think to any of the shows that he names right there, those are all like the ones that had sort of the Sunday evening special that would have like a talk with the kids about how you actually need to take your schoolwork seriously. Listen, I understand that for a lot of people, particularly from countries that are not the United States, the way that you rise in those countries is to do really, really well on your exams. So you study super, super hard in South Korea. They have a very programmatic approach to how to train kids. When it comes to American innovation, which is where most of the innovators...
Let me stop here right now, because that point that Ben Shapiro made here about the culture of those shows, this is a complicated one, guys. The essence of Vivek Ramaswamy's point is, I think, I took it well received. I don't think Vivek Ramaswamy didn't mean it to come across as negative as it did, but it did. It'd be almost like telling your wife, your wife gained 20 pounds or something like that, and you call her fat. Well, technically you're right, but it didn't come across right. That's how it came across. But then within the example, I understand what Vivek was trying to say. Basically, all he was trying to say is, if you want to have the best engineers in the world, or increase the pool of engineers, tech people, all that in America, then culturally we're not doing that. We don't have the culture. We don't. Kids are in school more overseas in certain countries. They focus on more things and different things overseas and over country. Let me give you an example with China. He was talking about India because India is the recipient of these H-1B visas more. But let me give you an example from China. Is there a difference when you break it down? Like that's America. This is China. Ready for class. Like this is the intro. Like this is the warm up. Get ready for class. Ready. Place your books. Books are placed.
That's just the warm up.
That's just the warm up, y'all. Like that's America. And then later on in this clip, they went on to talk about these. This is a school of like kindergartners. They showed them dribbling a basketball with two hands and passing it around in a circle to teach them. I know it's to teach them collectivism of Eastern philosophy, but they were working as a team in sync. The balls were dribbled in sync, and then they were rattling off the weaponry that was used in conflict in Eastern Europe, like the model of the tanks, like these kindergartners. Now, is that every school in China? I don't know, but I do understand Vivek's larger point, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But Ben Shapiro is absolutely right. I'm going to get back to the clip. I've got to unpack this. Ben Shapiro is absolutely right when he talks about part of this. Part of this, what he's talking about is, well, the shows that you use, Vivek, there actually were some very quality shows, culturally speaking. I mean, especially compared to what we have now. And I think he lost track of that. If you go back and look at some of the shows, he talked about family. Well, he talked about Family Ties, I believe, but all these shows, he didn't talk about all these shows, but they were around the same time frame. Full House, Family Ties, Step by Step, Growing Pains, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Saved by the Bell. He did mention Saved by the Bell. Those type of shows. You could even put Blossom in there. Those shows all had strong father figures. Danny Tanner from Full House, a widowed father raising 3 daughters with the help of his brother and best friend, and he was emotionally supportive. He was provided a loving, stable environment, teaching education, the importance of education and life lessons. That's basically what all those shows were about. Stephen Keaton, Family Ties. Remember the former long-haired hippie, cut his hair. He was a liberal-minded father, but then he raised conservative-leaning children. He was patient, caring, hit the books, schoolwork's important, don't do unsavory things, Step by Step, Frank Lambert, the same thing, Dr. Jason Seaver in Growing Pains, same thing, Philip Banks at Uncle Phil in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, same thing. He was a hard ass about education and books and all that and keeping young Will out of trouble. All that stuff, every single one of them had them. Even the principal, Richard Belding from Saved by the Bell, talked about it. I mean, they made fun of him a lot, but I understand Vivek's larger point, but it didn't come out well. And he has only posted twice on X since the start of the new year. Let's go back to the rest of the clip and I'll tell you why people were really pissed off.
Are coming from. The problem is not that people are watching Boy Meets World. If you want to talk about like systemic problems in the United States with regard to education, those exist. There are public schools, right? That's why we need school vouchers. You can talk about broken families that need to be healed. You can talk about lack of social structure.
Yes.
But this is the weird take, which is that you have to be a person training for the spelling bee in order to be a top level engineer at Google. That's just not true. I mean, just on any sort of relevant level, that's not true.
It's 100% a function of Vivek not being the prom king, not being the MVP.
That's funny by Megyn Kelly. And you got to entertain when you're doing these shows. But Ben Shapiro was on point there. He talked about, wait a second, the shows you're using as examples aren't even bad examples. They were all examples of great, basically peak American culture, number one. And then number two, he went on and said, wait a second, you don't even have a solution for this. You don't even have the right. You haven't even diagnosed it right. And I think that's why people are upset. I think people are upset because it came across that you were telling Trump supporters that just voted for you, that didn't care that you were a 7-Eleven Jeet or whatever people might call. They did not care. They backed you. Some of them even wanted to support Trump over you. I was one of them. I still like him. His performance in the debate, that debate where he just figuratively destroyed Kirsten Welker, was just one of the best debate performances we've ever seen. Could have been an act, though. A lot of people told me they think it was an act. I don't know. Maybe it was because we see these terrible takes now. But Vivek, number one, after you have the take, then you have an opportunity to clean it up, but you didn't do that. So you just disappeared. I don't get that. And then number two, if you have the take where you're kind of downing American culture, I don't think people would care if you said, well, here's the solution. And I agree with you. Importing people from other countries isn't going to solve it. So here's what I think we need to do. If he would have done that, that'd been fine. So he used denigrating basically skin color, in my opinion, but whatever. He didn't say it, but that's what it came across. That's what everybody's saying online, is he denigrated people based on skin color in a way, and it wasn't a dark skin color. So he did that, and then he just said, "You're too stupid. Your culture is bad, so we have to use H-1B visas." That's why it rubbed people the wrong way. Because if you would have said even if you would have said you're stupid, lazy, and the culture isn't good, let's stop the H-1B visas so we force this to get better. Private businesses to invest and all that, or school choice, like Ben Shapiro said. I think people largely wouldn't have had a problem with it.
The next clip is ready below. Welcome to After Show Carnage.